is the Lydian Spin with Lydia Lunch and Timothy Seymour Dahl.
Hello, hello.
Episode 172 in the motherfucking
Wow, wow,
house.
wow, wow.
Where are you,
Yes,
Timothy?
I'm in Iowa City right now. I have
Well, good
my
luck.
first day off and feels like forever. So I'm just kind of chilling. Tomorrow we go to Kansas City and then on to Wichita, on to Denton, on to San Antonio, Austin,
Wow, all
Houston.
right.
It keeps on going. And
Well,
then Baton Rouge, Mobile,
all right,
Atlanta.
nobody can remember all this. All
Okay,
right.
right.
Well, I don't know where it is, but I hope you're not going to be anywhere near Brigham Young University.
Oh, I know where that is. That's in Utah, of course.
Well, have you heard about the particular and specific problem they're dealing with right now?
I have not.
Pediculosis pubis crabs, but underarm crabs.
Whoa, how do you get those?
I guess you have somebody jerk off under your arm. I have no idea, but it seems as if the blood sucking creatures have taken over and there's an outbreak of armpit crabs at the I think it's Church of the Latter-day Saints, Brigham Young, right? Mormons.
Oh, yeah.
And I mean, they're like, there's an outbreak of armpit crabs, but think about it for a moment. And how the hell did that all happen? Nobody seems to know.
Well, even like pubic genital crabs, it feels like the only people I know who ever got those are like 60 plus. Like, it seem like that was a thing in the 70s? I don't know anyone my age.
I did once. No, I got crabs off of, you can't even believe you get it off a toilet, but in a Jackie Curtis bar in the late 70s.
So would you just shave everything off and it was done?
Yeah, you get the whatever, the little ice killer. But the thing is, that's why I'm so, that's why I investigate every bed for bed bugs. And, I was got my flashlight out. The luminol stick is next. So that's all I know.
Brigham Young. Well, that's Michael Jackson's favorite university, Brigham Young. That joke's I always like that joke. I mean, so armpit crabs. I mean, really, I've never even heard of such a thing.
Well, I don't like the idea, but I'm glad I shave. Now, Pope Francis, not a friend of mine, priests and nuns watch internet porn. Pope Francis admitted while speaking with seminarians in Rome on Monday. He said, internet porn was a vice shared between members of the church. That's not their only vice.
No.
Many people have them. He said, laymen, many lay women, and priests and nuns. The devil gets in that way. And I'm not just talking about criminal pornography like that of involving the abuse of children. That is already degeneration, but pornography that is a little normal. He cautioned priests and nuns, saying, dear brothers, be careful about this. Now, I'm not sure he's given them the right advice. Maybe if they watch more pornography, they wouldn't be abusing all the freaking kids.
That could be, yes, because masturbation is not allowed in the Catholic Church either, right?
Oh, I guess pedophilia is. It has been going on for hundreds and thousands of years.
Absolutely. And I guess what? There's monitoring the internet activity at the Vatican. That's how they know.
The Vatican is its own city. So I don't know how he's verified this, but here we go. In 2020, Pope Francis' Instagram account appeared to like a racy photo of a Brazilian bikini model dressed in stockings and suspenders. The model, Natalie Garibado, said the pontiff's verified account was among the thousands that liked her image. But the account subsequently unliked the photo shortly before the Vatican said it was launching an inquiry into one of the Franciscan priests. Anyway, I guess that's how it came to be, but that's just,
That's just pathetic. That's just pathetic.
I mean, vows of celibacy are not good for look, temporarily, most people go through it. Long-term vow to not pleasure yourself.
That's not
It's a cruel and unusual behavior. All I can say.
Well, speaking of, I guess, molestation, or we don't know what's really going on here, but Michael Ramirez, 15, in the Sacramento area, 2020, he goes missing for 2 years. The family's like, is he dead? Is he a runaway? Kids go missing. They didn't know what was going on. Well, then he disappeared. He appeared. He reappeared. Just like a week ago. They're like, what's going on? And he claims he was kind of held hostage by his school teacher, Holga Averis.
Yeah, I heard about
61.
this.
and she's got arrested. They're dealing. He's 17-year-old boy, 61-year-old woman. There's more to this story. I think they had. I don't know. I'm not going to comment, but I mean, I have my
Well,
hunches.
you never know what happens.
Yeah, I think they fell in love, and it was
Could
not
have been.
and then basically he was
He
a
got
kid,
bored.
and yeah, he
Yes,
left one day. I mean, how
well,
she overpowered him from 15? I don't know.
maybe
I could be
a
wrong.
seduction at first, and then locked in the basement, 37 chambers. I don't know.
I don't fucking know, but
Well,
they're investigating it. I mean, her life's ruined, and who knows what's going to happen with
have
them.
you heard about this Hyundai, and is it called Kaya? That car? What's the car?
Well, those are competing Korean companies, but yes, Kia and Hyundai. Yes.
Well, what's happening is because there is a manual or instruction guide online how to steal these cars. This is a big TikTok challenge now. And there were something like 7,000 cars stolen last year in Milwaukee and around the Midwest. It's really, cars are being stolen because you can steal them with like a USB charger or something.
What?
And this is a new TikTok challenge. So there's all these kids that don't know how to drive crashing and getting into accidents.
Oh boy. Well,
maybe they're trying to escape their seductresses. I doubt
real brilliant. I mean, the world out there is pretty nuts. I mean, last night in Chicago, we had we're hanging outside the Burlington bar, and some crackhead. I don't know, but she was pretty young, and she came up to me and was like, north or south? And I go, what do you mean?
What
do you? She goes, what are you from? Northern Ireland or Southern Ireland?
Oh,
and I said, well, I'm neither. I have no Irish in me. She goes, you want some on you? And she had all the rotten teeth, and then she was offering a blowjob if I bought her a drink, and then she offered everyone in the band. But she was having a good time. I mean, everyone kind of handled it well, but yeah, the street action. Well, we were just in LA. The street action in urban America right now, it's alive and on fire and going strong. I mean,
people are lonely, they're depressed, they've been deprived, and they've been lied to. So that's going to breed a nation of insolence. How about this? I don't know if you heard about this. Indonesian woman's body found inside a python.
Okay. I mean, how big was this woman?
Well,
how big was this python?
A woman in Indonesia, Jambi province, was killed and swallowed whole by a python.
Wow.
She was a rubber tapper, reportedly in her 50s, and made her way to work at a rubber plantation. Reported missing after failing to return that night. A day later, villagers found a python that appeared to have a large stomach. Locals killed the snake and found her body inside, intact.
Well, those pythons and anacondas.
Why don't you guess how long that snake was?
Give me a second.
Yep.
23 feet.
16 feet.
Wow, I mean, 16 is huge. I
mean, they get over 20. Enough.
Those things get huge, and I mean, they eat boars. I mean, they're, of course, they suffocate you first, and then they somehow, their jaw comes dislocated and they can swallow you. I don't know.
They swallow their food whole. Their jaws are connected by very flexible ligaments, so they can stretch around large prey. And they say one expert had told the BBC that pythons typically eat rats and other animals, but once they reach a certain size, it's almost like, why would they bother with rats? Not enough calories.
But it strangled her or suffocated her first. I mean, they don't eat people alive or things alive.
Well, they can't swallow you in one gulp because you'd be able to maybe, punch them in the eye. But anyway, it's not the first incident in this province in Indonesia. I mean, about once a year, people are getting swallowed by humans. Swallowing humans.
Well, speaking of creatures, there's a kangaroo has gone missing in Indiana. One of these exotic pet owners, he had licenses for him, but he just the other day woke up, he's like, one of them's gone.
Where's the roo?
It's hopping around Indiana somewhere. They're looking for it.
Maybe he's coming to your show.
Maybe, but I mean, it's slowly getting colder. That thing's not going to really last long, even if they don't get him. So
Well,
or her.
I'm still infatuated with, as I call him, Mr. P22, the mountain lion who has his own Instagram that, hangs around Griffith Park in Los Angeles, but's been seen in Silver Lake and Los Feliz. And he's had an Instagram for a couple of years now. He's kind of a local celebrity. I'm still kind of obsessed with Mr. P22.
I like Mr. P22 all the way. Nothing against Mr. P22. Going back to the
Hasn't hurt anybody.
No, it's
hanging around.
It doesn't happen that often, and every now and then it does.
The mountain lion, leave him alone.
Mountain lions, they're about at most 80, 90 pounds, but they'll still fuck you up. Or as Dave Budden says, even a squirrel will fuck you up. So you just want to let nature be, right?
I agree.
Yeah. Going back to the kind of street action in America today. Well, this woman, Beverly Baker, was arrested in Pasadena, and she took a pickaxe and just went, seems like just a random house, and it was like a newborn, and this woman's like with her baby, and like, what the hell's going on? And she starts smashing windows, and kind of Jack Nicholson in The Shining just starts chipping away at the door.
The headline was "Granny with a Grudge." I saw it.
Well, was it a granny?
She was in her, well, 50s or 60s. They called the headline was "Granny with a Grudge."
She's on meth. It has to be.
But there was also a guy in Florida last week who was well dressed in a suit with a machete, ringing people's doorbells at like 5:30 in the morning and running away. Like, what the hell is going on? You need the nanny cam everywhere.
I don't know what's going on. I mean,
I need a nanny cam on my suitcase.
Yeah, that's not a bad idea. Not a bad idea at all. Well, yeah. Well, anyhow, there was a 30-minute standoff with the cops, and they don't know what the fuck to think. But yeah, the rate of
insanity.
Insanity is ripe in the world right now.
And speaking of insanity, I would say Kevin Shea is too intelligent to be insane.
Fair.
Some of his theories and philosophies, other people might not be able to comprehend. He's hilarious, fantastic drummer, and wonderful to be with. He's just done a few shows with us with the Retrovirus Charm. He's our guest today on the 172 episode of the Lydian Spin with Lydia Lunch and Tim Dahl.
What's up, motherfuckers?
I'm not sure that's the Kevin Shea I know, but this is the Lydian Spin with Lydia Lunch, Tim Dahl, and our special guest Kevin Shea, who recently did a couple of shows with the Retrovirus.
Delicious.
What was I got to ask this first of all? What was unexpected about the shows that we've done? Because you came in. Look, we've been doing this a while. You came in on the fly, and I was very impressed when you said you would do it. I sent you all of the songs. You had a show the night I sent them to you, and you came in. I said, just learn a few to see how it fits, and you knew them all by the next day. But what was the most unexpected thing about going on tour with us ruffians?
Well, I feel like going on tour with the Lydia Lunch Retrovirus, I gotta bring it to the next level in terms of not only actively being involved with the actual moment, but there's an overarching kind of way of looking at the world that we need to correspond with, and I need to just accept. I need to not only give into it masochistically, but there's some sadist element where I have to just destroy at the same time, but in favor of the group project. So this
is why you're in it, because you know how to bring it. And you know how to push it around when it's necessary, if you know what I mean. Security.
Hello.
Security.
Yes.
Hello.
So, I mean, let's go back to the beginning, dude. When did you decide to play drums?
Well, a long time ago, I was watching The Muppet Show, and I saw the creature animal, that Muppet, playing drums. I was approximately 3 or 4 years old, and I have very fond memories of the way he would not only eat the drums, destroy the drums, knock things over, and have a gigantic, fierce kind of evil smile on his face at the same time. Despite what anybody else thought, he was just going to completely destroy at any opportunity he had. That unleashed him from the chains, and he was not going to take no for an answer, and he destroyed. And that's what I later found out about appreciating shows by some of the Who destruction elements of the drum set, or maybe like even some of the Nirvana shows where they would destroy their drums, and of course all the punk rock music, destroying equipment, throwing guitars at each other on stage, breaking guitars. It all came from this inspiration of watching Animal just completely let loose.
Kevin,
brains.
Kevin, I only have to throw a dirty look at a musician and his guitar automatically breaks or his drums fall apart. But that brings me up to, I guess that's where and if anybody hasn't seen it, I highly suggest people go and see your absolutely chaotic drum massacre called Dirty Thoughts, which I
Sexy Thoughts.
Sexy Thoughts. Well, to me, it's dirty. Because I'm like, oh my God, if he's destroying your drums like that, I do want to know. But anyway, back to the Muppets.
Back to the Muppets.
So you ask your parents, can you buy me drums? When is that what happened? You're like, you saw this, like, I want a drum set.
Well, yeah, I saw it. And they said, this is the typical thing in fifth grade band, I feel like. In fifth grade, they came around and they said, does anyone want to play an instrument? And so they said to me, what would my choice be? I said acoustic bass, because I loved the Stray Cats when I was a kid. I loved the way he would spin the bass around and dance on stage. And then the other one was the drums. And so they gave me a bass and they had me play it standing up, just like mimicking what I could do. And then I did some coordination exercises, like rubbing your tummy and bouncing and patting your head at the same time. And they felt that I would be more into the drum set territory. So that was kind of the choice. And then from there, yeah, it was just, I'd always loved Prince, who was a drummer on those 1999, all of his early records from when I was in fourth grade and everything. And so getting to actually play the drums became the most satisfactory physical thing I had experienced at that point in time in my fifth grade life. But later on, one might say I'd experienced other kind of pleasures.
Well, instead of beating on things, you would just beat off on things. Is that what you're saying?
Hello.
Just asking.
You're living in Minneapolis, and did you ever get to see Prince in an intimate setting?
Not at that point, because my parents, the family had left when I was pretty young, but I did see Prince later when I lived in Boston, went to Berklee College of Music.
For how long?
But false applause.
Yeah, no.
How long did you go to school there?
About 2.5, 3 years. I did some summer programming too, so I almost made it all the way through. And this was later on. I left Minnesota. I went to Seattle with the folks in early 80s, the years of the early Starbucks, the early Amazon. Things were really looking up for me. I thought I was a part of pre-grunge, and then they moved me on to Massachusetts, and it was like a different sort of caveman meathead kind of mentality that I also became endeared to.
You mean like where Tim comes from?
Well,
let me tell you a little.
I'm a different type of meathead.
I'm saying there's a special quality to. You really have to dive into the flavor of it to fully appreciate it.
Let me tell you a little story about Prince. Once he tried to, in Washington, D.C., I think at the Black Cat, I think 1313 was playing, and his manager said, can we use your equipment? He had just done a 3-hour show. And we're like, no, we're driving back to New York. You can't. I'm going to see a 3-hour show by Prince after I just played an hour long. Get out of here.
Oh, no. I heard that was notorious with he would borrow equipment and then break guitars and all.
Again, I could have looked at him and broke him, that little shrimpette. He was too small to even be a Lunchable.
Lunchitos.
So you left Berklee School of Music to Chicago? You're in the band Storm and Stress? Is that the right sequence?
That's after Berkeley Music School. I went to home for a semester, or the summer semester, back in Pittsburgh at that point, where I graduated high school. And then my
What
parents.
a road dog! You were a
well,
road doggy. Yeah.
Well, they're astronauts, and they were.
Oh my God.
But we ended up.
How long were you in Pittsburgh? How long were you in Pittsburgh for, and where were you in Pittsburgh? I lived there for 4 years. I loved it.
Oh yeah, well I remember when you lived there because everybody was talking about the Lydia Lunch had moved to town, and so
Yeah.
we would wonder when you were going to show up at some of the gigs.
Never did.
But you never saw you.
The rumor was that I went there to become a cop because there was a redhead there who looked a redheaded gal who was a cop who looked like me, who was my friend. So that keep that rumor going.
Yeah.
So, I wish I would have known you then. You would have been a lunchito. Oh.
Hello.
What area in Pittsburgh did you live in? Where did you live in Pittsburgh?
I lived in Squirrel Hill. It's called the Forbes Cottages, and at the Forbes Cottages, it was kind of like that movie Singles. I don't know if you remember that with Matt
I
Dillon.
remember the poster. I never saw it.
Yeah, it was kind of like a late era, like post gang, one of those gang, whatever, the '80s crew that was kind of hot, like I don't remember Rob Lowe, all that kind of scene, but for the '90s.
The Brat Pack.
Brat Pack. Yeah.
Rob Lowe still hot, if you ask me. Still hot.
He
Sex
looks
tape
good.
2. Sex tape 2, please. I lived in Observatory Hill.
Oh.
That was nice too.
Oh, it was a nice area, but like I felt there were great musicians and everything in Pittsburgh, and but it was such a small scene that not that I just felt I needed more kind of humbling kind of to move to New York City humbled me more than living in Pittsburgh, even though there were great drummers there. Yeah. And so, but then when someone like you moved to town, I felt like, oh, this city's awesome,
But you never saw me.
But I never saw you, so so I was like, oh, I gotta go.
Well, you're seeing a lot of me now, kids. So enjoy it while it lasts.
Yeah, exactly.
That's all I'm looking at you right now.
So, but you lived in Chicago. You lived in Chicago with Storm and Stress because they're on Touch and Go. But you were there for a year. You didn't like that experience that much, correct?
Yeah, so in Pittsburgh, I went to graduate high school. I went to Berkeley for a few years, came back to Pittsburgh. I met the Storm and Stress people, and then we started this group probably in '93, and then played till about '97. The original bass player kind of split. He got tired of dealing with the guitar player in that band, and I still play with the bass player anyway. So we ended up, while living in Pittsburgh, we drove to Chicago and recorded with Steve Albini, and we did our recording, I think at Chicago Recording Company, where they recorded maybe "We Are the World" or something with Michael Jackson. I don't know. So
no, "We Are the World." But
yeah, okay, maybe what did you do there? Did some or like Quincy Jones something? Yeah.
Okay.
But very like strange recording experience where I kind of was not. I was not really welcome on the team, I was even though I was doing my own thing, animal style on the drums, in terms of the actual studio approach. Once I left the studio, they went back and ended up, re-recording stuff, editing all the takes down.
Fucking Albini.
Yeah. Well, I don't know if it was his fault, but it was definitely the guitar
Doesn't
player.
matter. Don't like him anyway.
He had a sense of humor. I remember at one point he took our camera back then. It was like one of those disposable cameras. And when we developed it, there was a photo of his genitalia using the urinal. And then we said, oh, okay, thanks, Steve. I don't know where that photo is now.
Was the weenie Albini weenie, or I'll leave that to
Oh my God.
leave it to the imagination. I'm
may
sure he
still
was
exist.
proud of it. He might have been proud of it if he's going to show it off to other guys. I don't know.
Well, he had a very he had a dirty element to his fantastical understanding of realities, I guess. But so, with not to mention animals, and I mean these weren't things that I think it was improvisatory humor that yeah.
Well, it wasn't no fucking joke when they removed you from your own recording and replaced it with whatever the fuck they did. Now, was it? That wasn't too funny.
Well, we had just spent years like every day rehearsing. We lived in the house together, and we would rehearse these 20-minute songs. And then finally, when it came to the recording, they narrowed it down to 12 minutes or 10, which still is too long. But at the time, I was like, this is kind of my first main recording, and I was really emotionally kind of upset by it. that someone would do that, without asking me.
Justifiable.
Yeah, every day you work on something and then someone else just kind of decides to take production role. And to me, they destroyed the whole thing. But, and that was the beginning of the end with those people, even though we did one more record.
So you did 2 records total.
Yeah.
And then you finished that. And then you're like, and you guys moved to Chicago because Touch and Go was there. You thought that would be a good move. And then you're like, I'm done with this. And then you moved to New York. Is that correct?
Sir, well, first I moved to New York after the first record was done, and then I stayed there. I met a bunch of people and played for a long time. And we lived right across the street from where I later moved back to New York from Chicago. But on the roof, and we lived in this place on Grand and Bedford Avenue. And there was a person who lived on the roof with his girlfriend. We had 10 people living in this one building, and they found a recycle, like a parachute in the trash outside, and they hung it on the roof, even though it's a slanted roof, and they just slept on the roof.
Parachute in the trash?
Yeah, and they slept underneath this parachute on the roof, and then
homemade earth.
What time of year was this?
This is basically, it got kind of cold. Yeah, the nights were chilly. I think it was at least 7 months. Through.
What year was that, Kevin? That you came from Chicago to New York?
I think I moved to New York City from Pittsburgh in like early '97. And then moved to Chicago 98, and then back to New York 99 to go to school. I found my way out of the Chicago scene wasn't very welcoming for me, I found, whereas New York seemed to be more diverse and more open to kind of outsider sort of approaches to
what did you go to school for here?
Here? I did a minor in audio engineering, and then I did some music classes, and I had a kind of, it was undergrad, but I did some graduate school and classes in philosophy and kind of like continental and some analytic philosophy, but including like studying philosophy of mind, but mixing that with literature and Blanchot and like weird unreliable narrator kind of stuff and Nietzsche.
Not many people know Blanchot here.
Yeah, that was the best. I had read some book. What Derrida would write books, criticism, and one of the books he wrote about also was the Blanchot book. So I was like, oh, I got to check out Blanchot. And Blanchot was much more fun than Derrida at the time.
Yeah, I completely agree. Well,
deconstruction, deconstruction.
Tedious.
Not so fun.
I would prefer Foucault's analyzation of prison systems and etc. I'm more into that.
Yeah, that was the most fun because it was dealing with it on a psychical element, dealing with discipline in a psychical way rather than more of a
punishment and discipline.
Punishment, yeah,
experts,
in a physical way.
Experts,
and so that's a good technique to all these techniques I learned from those classes where I tried to apply to music and the drums and what a band was and all that kind of stuff. And that's why I have $5 in my pocket. Woo! Yeah, no, I'm just kidding. But
so then you were like, you didn't really see it through. You were taking classes, but then something in your brain was going abort, and you left school for the second time.
I did write a lot of stuff, a lot of kind of fictional and research-based fiction, kind of like the Borges stuff, where he was like analytical kind of researcher, and then would put all these this style of writing into fiction too. And so I found that very interesting at the time. Maybe it was cliche, I don't know, but then getting into the James Joyce, the Ulysses stuff, that book really blew my mind. And so each episode was its own approach to writing. But so sometimes there'd be this research-oriented approach, sometimes a question-answer approach, sometimes headline kind of approach, And so that kind of freedom, I felt like I related to having played a lot of experimental music. So some of my influences from music actually came from, like I'm sure like a lot of people like from writing or these concepts of literature, unreliable narrator, bouncing around between genres and improvised music where someone might think that I believe in everything I'm doing, where really I might play an entire show where I think it's I'm playing something I absolutely hate on purpose, just like, I don't know, stuff like that. But I mean, experiment, unreliable narrator.
But Kevin, what you just said, this is why, and I didn't even know all of this about you, why I relate so closely to you, because as somebody who I feel is a musical and a literary schizophrenic, I mean, I have a lot of different styles of writing and of music. And most people, they have one or two concepts musically or literally, literarily, literaturally, and that's what they stick to.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's what I'm that's one of the reasons why I'm so inspired by what you do. And also the fact, like when I think about myself, also at the age when you started everything, that, to be at that age and have a complete understand concept of where I'm going, who I am and everything, that's always like extremely powerful, inspiring. Cause I at that age, I was like, basically lost. I don't know, like in terms of who am I,
Well, I always knew who I am. As a natural born killer, I came out fighting or killing.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh my God.
Oh no. Oh, Tim's.
Oh my God. I'm a little road fried. I've been going nonstop since I saw you guys. But that's besides the point.
That is the point.
This is about you here. And so you went on from I studied philosophy, writing, doing all that stuff, applying it to your music, vice versa. Starting a bunch of bands in New York City, and then next thing you know, you're playing 200 shows a year. What with People and Talibam and with all these things, what was the most amount of shows you did in 1 year during this period?
Well, that was 2007. I played almost 325 shows that year. And that was ever since I've tried. That was the most I ever played in 1 year. But
who the fuck was booking you?
I had like 14 bands and a lot of tours of Europe and back to back. And then I counted, like some nights I would play 4 shows a night in New York City, but different locations. And so I added those up too. But
that's why you're so damn good.
Well,
hello.
In my own mind. Hello.
You're proving it, babes. You're proving it.
I mean, well, if you do something all the time, you should get better. Any musicians you want to drop who played tons of shows and gotten worse?
Well,
there are some.
Yeah,
we know who they are. Tim and I have a list, but we're going to keep that one to ourselves.
Well, also just the tour chops of how do you maintain. I had to learn a lot on the road too, from trying to play and deal with other band members when you're tired, all that kind of stuff. You really have to like spend some time learning how to do that. I think it's not so easy just in terms of the personalities, and on top of that, trying to do the show and have the energy, So,
for instance, Mexico City, where the altitude was so high, the smog was intense. You said it even hurt your bones. I came back sounding like Barry White for days. I mean, I sounded like I had done like 40 shows. We'd done 2, had a few days off into Mexico City. And it wasn't until after the show that I did that you came to at the river that finally my voice came back after that show, which is just bizarre. But yeah, you have to deal with personalities. Luckily, what people might not know is how easy I am to deal with on the road.
Oh, well, it is true. I mean, you're
right.
Yeah. Like some people don't understand that in a band, like we want the band to be together and united. Yeah. Cool. And you want the promoters chill, and there are a lot of bands that I've been in where they didn't understand that. The band leader or whatever wasn't interested in kind of help. You have to be somewhat of a psychologist, maybe, I don't know, to be able to understand these different personalities and try to make everybody come together. And I had some definitely huge roadblocks on in that kind of territory. But
so, I mean, do you feel like people maybe didn't understand you? Were there? I'm sure there was moments where your diplomatic, muscles had to be stretched quite a bit. I mean, not everyone's easy on the road. So would you say?
Don't we know it?
If some people were maybe not understanding what your thing, do you ever challenge yourself and think, hey, maybe I'm not being understanding of this other person's thing?
Yeah, and that's part of like what I learned. I mean, I'm still learning. It's always a process, but yeah, for me, it's also recognizing that. Well, first of all, yeah, I may perceive things in a certain way negatively, where later in hindsight or something, I'll realize that it was all in my head. Like recently, I was scheduled to play a show, And I had forgotten that I'm the one who canceled the show. And I saw that they went on to play with a different drummer without me. And I was like, what the hell? You know, like why? And then it was 2 months later that they played the show, and I was kind of upset. And then someone reminded me that, wait, didn't you cancel that show? Because you were, I was like, oh yeah. Like, I think I'm guilty of doing that sort of thing where I would get mad at someone and without remembering, you know.
Well, let me jump in as a diplomat of a different color.
Okay.
Well,
look, if something is not right, why not at the moment just fucking address it instead of for 2 months sitting on it and chewing the inside of your mouth out, though?
Yeah, and
That's my method. I mean, I like to go in and say, wait, what's going on?
Well, for me, it was at the time, I definitely was holding my tongue when I really needed the money and I was very broke. And like Storm and Stress or some other bands, even like most of the other people that are killing it, where I wouldn't bring up issues that I had with people because I just thought that I would get fired or something, you know? And then to me, that was not, I couldn't even deal with that concept of like, I had no other money coming in anywhere else. So, but nowadays, I don't think I can realize everybody's a human being. And so you can just say something, you know, and you don't have to, if you do get fired or whatever, that's just, you know, as long as you're not an asshole and you're trying to be considerate and compassionate and empathetic, that I think you can, find a diplomacy way to work things out, you know?
Well, you know, at least we still deal with some assholes that don't get fired. So, you know,
Oh, yeah. I mean, well, yeah.
The thing is, you can only have so many assholes and, you know, at the time, but we try to be diplomatic here.
Yeah.
Try to be conscious of people's feelings, and we do try to address things if they come up. But, you know, sometimes you just don't know what's, you know, percolating in somebody else's fucking brain soup.
Right. Yeah. And one time it was as simple as I went out all night and had a good night. And then in the morning, these guys were like just teasing me on the train, just wouldn't stop teasing me. You know, I had slept 1 hour, you know, and I was losing my mind. And then we got to the show, it was our last show. And then we played, the promoter was asking me questions about like, hey, what projects do you have coming up? And they had been sort of making fun of me all day on 1 hour of sleep. And we were too far away from the hotel after sound check. So I tried to sleep on a little, like half of a bench or something back. So I was exhausted, and they started doing that in front of the promoter. And I was just like, oh, I'm just lost it, you know. Yeah, things like that. Or one time we were in Tokyo, same thing. I went out the night before one of the shows and I had this great night. It was epic, you know, and I come back to the hotel at 8 a.m. and then the guys are all asleep and they wake me up at like 10 and say, you know, we have to go to the sound check right now. It's at 1. I was like, we've already done this sound check. If you want a good show, just let me sleep. And, you know, they'll understand like what they want is a good show. You know, I could do a line check. But yeah, that was not an option. So on that night, I didn't sleep, and that was the last time I played with that band. You know,
well, Thing about Retrovirus is we do enjoy when the other members have an enjoyable night out, whether we're with them or not.
Yeah,
we got no choice because they're going to talk about it anyway.
Yeah,
so we don't make fun of them. We're like, oh yeah, more details.
Details, and the camaraderie. Like you want it. It has to be.
Want people to have fun.
Yeah, which I love that, you know, that's the way it should be.
And also, I mean, one last thing, I cannot stand ever waking people up. To me, that is a crime I will not commit. Maybe because I sleep in shifts and don't ever fucking wake me up because. But I mean, to waking someone up for something stupid or any reason is just, to me, I will commit any other crime I can think of, not that one. It's just, oh no. Let the boys sleep. That way I can creep around more anyway while they're snoozing.
Lunchitos under the.
Oh boy.
Never know. You might never know what you might find in your shoe.
So you saw Sam Kinison when you were a kid, and you asked your dad to take you, or what happened there?
It was a few friends from, I think, high school. Yeah, we were in high school, and that was part of my transitional phase from Seattle, kind of this hip kind of area, up and coming, into I'm calling it the meathead vibe, but really there's like an element of authenticity and kind of like a brutal kind of branding of the personality or something there that is effective, you know, and it's interesting. And so Sam Kinison, and when I went to see him in Boston Garden in high school, kind of was a part of that kind of awakening, you know, just where he would be talking in this normal kind of way. And he had been a preacher, I guess, or a minister, but and then out of nowhere, he just starts screaming and shouting at the top of his lungs, say it, you know, and that loss of control, but also sort of like showcase, you know, illustration of like who I am as a person. I found that very interesting in a theatrical kind of way. It's like understanding of theatrics and humor and you know,
hatred and hatred.
Yeah, and
a little hatred goes a long way.
Yeah, a little smidgen of hatred goes a long way.
Hey, well.
Hello.
Oh boy.
Hello. Sorry.
You can do that.
Hello.
All right. I think you're warming up for a track on your upcoming mouth trumpet record. Correct me if I'm wrong. I don't know.
Well, I do have a.
All right. Let's throw this in here.
But he does. It's.
I do have a record coming up. It's a solo mouth trumpet record called Trombone-ish.
Aren't you afraid that all the girls are just going to want to kiss you after that? See what those lips can actually do. Get all that sound out of them, and you don't even have an instrument up to them. Imagine if. Just
Come on.
Well, it's also because the trumpet itself is one of the dumbest instruments that has ever been invented. But I appreciate that. So is the drum.
Why do you think that? So do you think there's a real hierarchy of dumb instruments to non-dumb instruments?
Yeah, what's the smartest one?
What's the smartest one?
Well, drum and bugle corps, you know, you put those together, they kind of are two dumb instruments. Ones you're just like, you know, farting into the mouthpiece, and the other one you're just slamming down like caveman style onto the skins. But you get a violin or something, and you have to hold it. Your neck, you're all contorted, and then trying to bow.
More dumb, but you know.
Well, it's less. To me, it's less like intuitive. Like a trumpet, you can kind of figure out that you can control the sound in intense ways.
Oh, I think a saxophone's probably easier than a trumpet.
I guess, yeah, maybe you're right. But you got to double read. But the tube, there's something about the tube element.
At one point, Kevin, I thought you said a chubby, not a trumpet. I'm like, well, you got to know how to control the chubbies as well.
Control the chubby.
Watch the chub.
Well, I mean, we got a couple of chub scouts right here, right now.
Hello.
Well, that's why you're rocking in your seat. I think you're rocking on your chub. You got a quarter chub, Tim, or what?
Hello.
Get that quarter chub up here.
Whoa.
I'd be so lonely. I'd be so
all right. Hold on.
Having too good a time.
Yeah, okay. Incredible time. Well, Kevin, we have some bands together besides Retrovirus. You were in a million bands in New York City. We have American Liberty League. We have Bar Shea Dahl. We have Sports Bar. It only existed for 2 gigs.
You have your wedding band blues.
Legitimate Jizz. Well, we just had a gig with Matt Nelson trio, and so Kevin's very versatile. He can play jazz, he can play rock, he can kind of do it. You got
mouth trumpet.
Is there a style of drums that you want to learn how to do and you just kind of aren't that good at, but you're like, one day I might want to do that?
Well, when I was growing up, I was really interested in Rush, the music of Rush. And I think that
the prog rock band.
Yeah.
Yes. Oh my.
Scarface.
On today's Tom Sawyer.
Scarface loved Rush.
Yeah.
Oh, boys. What?
That makes no sense. But
living in the limelight.
No. Stop. But you don't play that music at all.
I was gonna say that. So at that age, in the 5th grade, learning up because I was in the stage band at school, in the barbershop choir, I was in the pep band, I was in the pit orchestra, I was in the symphonic band, I did timpani for all-state band and auditions and all this kind of stuff. So it was always playing other people's music, and same thing with Rush. He plays the same drums every single night. But since then, I kind of realized I'm not as, sometimes playing that proggy kind of stuff is cool, or like the metal, really intense metal where you're learning every note for note is something that I want to do at the same time as I'm doing other kind of musics. So rather than like focusing on one thing or another, I like just the breadth of everything, you know. Because then when I go to play like the Rush tune, which I never do, but it's, but like I can appreciate that entertainment element too of the Broadway element of I don't know, playing in a pit orchestra of the Phantom of the Opera or something like that.
So through composed music that is aesthetically challenged is something that you enjoy doing.
Well, it's just through compose, but also through an obstacle course, you know, like the Oulipo writers or something, where they would set up obstacles. Like who wrote the book without using the letter E, you know, that guy. But like, so those kind of exercises that the Oulipo would put into towards literature games, they would apply these strict parameters
like whole novels that are palindromes.
Yeah, right? Things like that. Yeah. And
which
so
is really insane.
Yeah, like that element with music can be really gratifying and fun, you know, to go through.
Kevin, I have a game I'm going to challenge you to. There are no fucking rules. Get it on.
Hello. What?
You were at that one time, as you said, almost 300 shows in 1 year. I mean, it has
More
dwindled.
than 300. Yeah.
It's dwindled and withered down. Is that because you became more elite, or there's not as many bands, or well, of course, the pandemic shut almost everything down, but what's the reason for that? Would you rather be playing more?
I love playing music and meeting people, traveling and going through it, because there is a certain routine you can get into on the road. Almost like sometimes I come off the road and I feel, maybe Terry Bozzio said that you have some kind of like post-tour depression in a way.
Oh, people do. Yeah.
Well, yeah. And just every single day, like eating all the food you want, you know, exploration of the cities and everything. And so, yeah, I would do it more, but I guess that particular year I was at a few bands that, maybe I felt like took me for granted in terms of I was sort of hired in certain bands because of my reputation with Storm and Stress at the time. And so, but in this specific band, I was not allowed to do, you know, what I wanted to do with the music, even though I was hired specifically because
in Storm and Stress, because you have style and you have technique.
Yeah. And after 6 months of that, I think it was just like,
well, do you think
too much?
Do you think one reason that's why you're attracted to playing in Talibam and you've been in it so long is because you can do whatever you want? At least from the outside, it seems like that's the case.
Yeah, I mean, there are like, I mean, I guess every group has its pluses and minuses, but there are like in a certain band where you can go directly into fake changes on, you know, like whatever, the 32 bar form, A, B, you know, rhythm changes or something like that. With a group like Talibam, it's not really, it's more, you know, it doesn't have that kind. I still like to play in all different types of bands only because I want that to be one of the things I do, you know. There's not a complete freedom to explore all types of music with, you know.
Sure. One thing I've witnessed, and it's not to feed any paranoia, but I think you've witnessed too. Your style of playing rubs some people the wrong way. And
rubs me the right way. Rubs me the right way. Yes, it does.
Rubs me the right way too. But I think every artist that puts something out there, not everyone's going to agree. So one famous case, of course, when you were in Most of the Other People Do the Killing, you guys did or attempted to do a verbatim facsimile of Miles Davis's Kind of Blue, where there's supposedly no improv, and you redid it, and that got a lot of blowback, and people were furious that you even did this. But I thought personally it was an interesting commentary on just the standard anyways. People are learning all these old standards, and then suddenly when you try to actually do it perfectly, then they get mad. Like people dedicate their whole lives to trying to play his music in the past, and then somehow your version wasn't allowed. I don't understand what was going on there. Can you comment on that? Did you get any death threats?
Well, like I always say that the best comment to me was from Jimmy Cobb, who said something like, you know, he heard it, someone played it for him. He said, at first I thought it was us, but then after listening to it for a while, I realized the vibe was different. But if they spent all this time doing this, they must really love the album. And to me, that's sort of all I have to say, other than the fact that like the liner notes for that album were a Borges story, Pierre Menard, author of the Quixote, and he in that book, Borges, or the writer, tries to rewrite Quixote, but he does it only by living in a new context. So every word, every replication of a sentence means something completely different in a new context. And so it's kind of, I felt like that had commentary on the process too. But in terms of the actual practical elements, the daily grind of doing that was very difficult for me. It like took 2 years of transcription, listening on all different, headphones, like over-ear headphones, inner headphones, like different stereo system. Each speaker system has its own set of frequencies. And then not to mention, there are lots of different masters for those recordings. And so you could find like one specific vinyl recording versus a CD versus a remaster, and each one will highlight certain cymbal hits or a little small snare drum hit. So it was just, for me, it's just a lot of like, persistent, like trying to be disciplined and doing this stuff. And there was a record that came out in the early 90s called Interstellar Space, or a tribute to Interstellar Space or something like that, the John Coltrane. And I think I went to see that live, or I can't remember, but at the time I thought, wow, they did a note for note version of Interstellar Space. I was so excited. Yeah. And then I got there, it was just kind of, they interpreted the music in their own way. And I was like, oh, well, wouldn't it be cool someday to do an actual note for note version, And I thought by now there would be, I don't know, at least 15 different versions of Kind of Blue, because it's not about playing the exact same version. There's no way I could possibly swing or whatever like Jimmy Cobb, or, Peter could never sound like Miles Davis. Like the whole point is that you can approach this music and you could attempt to do a replication, but you'll never succeed. No one will succeed, And so, all the proceeds to that album went to charity that MAPA chose for bringing instruments into various schools and things like that. And so the project was not about money making. It was just like some love, labor of love kind of situation.
Well, 2 years, labor of love for sure.
And a lot of money into the studio. We did a whole session. The files were lost. Like we had to redo everything, and it was like
horrifying.
Yeah, I looked up the same drum set. I tried to get the same model, the year, the same sort of cymbal sizes, and like Mappa got the gut strings for the bass. Tried to look at the similar miking setups from photos from the studio sessions and all this kind of stuff.
And you're revealing all of this, Kevin, going back to what you were saying a bit earlier about, being kind of a hired gun in some bands and feeling underappreciated. I can understand it because they had no idea who they were fucking with. And did you ever just think, you fucking dolts, you have no fucking clue what I'm sitting on? I bet you must have. Yeah.
Well, I don't know if I was, I just felt like, let's be a part of the thing together. Let's like, why are we arguing about some stupid, or why are you like attacking me for something that, I don't know. It's just like, this kind of, I like to be in a collaborative ensemble that really wants to play a good show. That's what I want, and if people in the band are being assholes and that no longer becomes the goal, or if there's someone in the band that hates the music that is still doing it, and then like I play with them for another year and they're still in the band and they hate it and they're like, this sucks, I don't want to, and I hear like what they think about my playing, it's like, that's no longer a positive situation. And I should have, nowadays I could just say, oh, I'm going to leave this situation. Well, but there's a certain monetary element that like, if the band is doing well, it's like, at that point I thought I needed the money.
Wow. Most musicians need freaking money.
Yeah. That's the
bottom line.
Yeah. And most of it is fun. I love playing. So, it's
well,
just,
as Tim has said many times to me, which is one of the highest, maybe the only compliment I've ever accepted, because I don't need them. I offer him, especially, musical freedom, but freedom in general. To me, that's the reason I collaborate with people, is only to try to elevate them to my level of enjoying fucking life. And I never dictate what anybody should play.
Yeah. But there's also like a badassery of, like, I've seen you guys, play, and it's so great and so awesome with Weasel, and So for me, I want it to also be good. Like if I'm subbing on the drums or something, I want it to be awesome. That's all. That's all I want to do. So if I can attempt to do that, that's all I'm trying to do. Is I want it to be
yeah,
badass.
You fucking nailed it, like no one else has. I'm just saying. Just saying.
No, I love
Kevin. You're hired. You're hired.
Hello.
You're hired. I have I have more plans for you, my little lunchable. Security. Calling security against myself at this point.
Even you have the Time sexy thoughts thing that's on YouTube. If people haven't seen it, it's a kind
hilarious
of
and
performance comedy. I don't know what you'd say.
Destruction, Muppetary. Now we know it was based on the Muppets.
Yeah. And then also
you should have chewed one of the drum heads. That was the only thing missing. Next time, sexy thoughts too.
Yeah.
Well, you did sexy thoughts at one of my Super Bowl parties, actually.
Yeah.
That was pretty good.
I'm requesting it for the next Super Bowl party.
Yeah. You had your own costume. I think it was like a percussion costume that you made. Didn't you like sew percussion into your clothes? It was like really insane.
That was partially based on Sexy Thoughts itself was also partially based on that old John Cage stuff, like the what is that theater? Silent, or like the theater pieces where you would have a series of a descriptive like terms or whatever on a piece of paper, and then you roll this kind of, what are the dice? You roll sort of a dice.
Very fluxus, yeah.
Yeah, and then you kind of piece things together. And so no matter what your opinions are, what your thoughts are, or aesthetics are, or judgments or whatever, you just have to do what's assigned to you based on the cards, index cards being laid out. And so sometimes I had a saw on one piece of paper and a drum on the other piece of paper, and the action was like destroy or something, so I had to start destroying drums. That's just the piece, and people got all kind of upset at the Carnegie Mellon University where we performed that. But I think some of the elements of Sexy Thoughts did come from like those John. You can see some of those videos online.
I mean, I love pseudo-surrealism.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and reaching the point of that space between life and death. Sometimes you just have to.
And the sublime and the absurd.
Yeah. You can find that.
I live there.
Yeah. And you can have an epiphany, like a realization when you get there. That's like, oh, maybe I don't know what people think this looks like, but then you can listen back and be like, oh, that sounds. I never would have made those sounds otherwise, because I'm not like humping the bass drum or something like that, But if you listen back, you're like, what is that sound? Very interesting.
Next time I suggest jingle bells on your sunglasses.
Jingle bells, jingle bell.
On the sunglasses.
Kevin, you should go Christmas caroling in Williamsburg this year.
I'll do it. They would love it.
Look, we're all going to eventually be resigned probably to busking anyway. You might as well get a good start on it this year. I hate Christmas carols. Maybe you could do non-Christmas carols.
That's how they.
The stars are brightly shining.
Whoa!
Suddenly, I'm kind of fond of them. It's weird.
Is there an angel over there? What is that? Oh no! Sorry. That's not an angel. That's not an angel. That's a cat. That's a castrati.
No. I didn't cut him off, but I might have a spare pair I could sew back on.
Oh yes.
Hey, you're the only man I know beside one that watched all of Dahmer.
Hello.
I'll sew him back on if you insist.
That was creepy. That was horrifying.
Yeah, well, that's why you like me, I guess, right?
Oh God.
I mean, you like me in spite of that, but whatever. He was lonely.
You're out of your mind.
How about chestnuts roasting? And I don't mean chestnuts on the open fire. How about just nuts roasting on the open fire?
Well,
chestnuts.
I told Kevin this story in Mexico, but in high school, I was in this thing called the College Bowl, which is kind of like a trivia team, and they have different schools. They ask these questions like math questions, but they ask like trivial, just dumb pop culture questions, and we are way ahead. And one of them said, "What was Frosty the Snowman's girlfriend's name?" I was like, "This is," I go, "the snowblower." And, and the whole place exploded, including the judges.
Well, I mean, I've said it a few times. I'll say it again. I saw the amount of books at your mom's house. I don't think you read any of them. You touched them and you absorbed all the fucking knowledge. Tim Trivial Doll.
Is that my new nickname?
Timmy Trivia.
Timmy Trivia.
No, just Trivial Doll.
Trivial Doll. Oh,
no.
I like it. Well, Tim does have more. Tim has more nicknames than anyone I've ever met. Usually, I give them to him. So, I mean, that's just one of them. I can't wait.
Trivia.
A Trivial Pursuit doll.
So Kevin and I, we did a mini tour together in Estonia like a week before Christmas years ago, and this real eccentric guy, Reiner Jancis, who was kind of like a pop rock star when he was in his 20s, but then went into whatever direction he went into. His mom was a world-class ballet dancer. His dad taught in Moscow's conservatory. He was kind of like music aristocracy in that town. But he's like, "Oh, I want to have you guys." And I was like, I don't know if you can. I don't know if it's going to happen, blah, blah, blah. But Kevin and I were flown there, and we just kept our New York time, East Coast time the whole time. We never saw. There was only 2 hours of sunlight, anyways.
Yeah.
So we'd sleep all day, and we would wake. Our breakfast would be dinner, and we'd go play the concert and stay up all night, drink vodka, and eat smoked fish and kind of flew back. Yeah. It was. I still don't know what that tour was about.
The usual way that we like.
Do you remember the concerts, Kevin?
I remember what we played one. Remember this? I remember this very creepy guy in the woods. We played on an island somehow.
Oh yeah.
And there was one guy that was. Yeah. He was like very.
He
obsessed with you or something.
Yeah.
Did you have to boat to the island?
Yes.
I think
yes, we did. We took a ferry, and there was a guy who was. I think he was an Olympic retired biathlon guy who was doing film. I was doing a documentary on Reiner Jancis, and he was building a cabin in the woods in Hillmau. And he part of the documentary, he wanted us to perform in this cabin that was not complete. And then this kind of Rain Man guy came out of the woods, and he kind of started performing with us, and he had a stick. And he was kind of doing an interpretive dance, waving the stick in front of our faces while we did it. It was a weird show.
Well, that's what happens when you go far east. The weirdest things will happen. It's true. Once I did a concert, I don't remember where, somewhere in Italy, but there was the stage was built into the trees. And it was above.
Whoa.
And James Chance was on the bill. I mean, Mushroom Head, poor thing. And he was playing the piano. And the thing is, what I remember most is taking the promoter to the ATM to get the money. And he didn't have enough. So we literally called the mayor of this small town.
My God.
Who said he would finance the rest of the money. That's the Lydian method. Or go into the frickin' ATM right now. And you don't have the money? Call the mayor. It worked.
It worked.
Or security in this case.
Yeah, well, I didn't need any security. I was my own security that night. I wasn't going to go anywhere without that. Cash in hand. Thank you very much. Cash money.
Hello. Cash money.
One time it was a sad evening. Kevin and I were on a gig, and they tried to shake us down for money at the end because no one really
You're supposed to pay to play. Okay.
It was a junky situation, but Kevin was physically attacked. He said, "I'm not paying you any fucking money," and the guy attacked him. And I think didn't police show up? It was not.
Kay Shea, wait a minute.
And I took Kay Shea to the emergency room.
Yeah.
We hung out. He basically came an inch from losing an eye.
Yeah.
Wait, the other guy lost an eye?
No. Because he hit him with his glasses.
You lost an eye?
No.
Almost.
Like a little stitch underneath it. It was a scary situation. So musicians, we do get attacked sometimes for just sharing what we have to give.
All right, Kevin, next time you come over, which will be very soon, we are going to do a little shadow boxing.
Yeah.
You will never be punched in the eye. again, but you will be doing some throat punching. Yes.
But that in coordination with my steroid intake.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, absolute. If
Are you on
necessary.
anabolic steroids right now?
He is an anabolic steroid.
It's my middle name.
You're thinking about beefing up a little bit? Is that what's going on?
Well, I think for my security, if I'm running security, I got to beef it up a little bit.
See, I love that Kevin's running security for me, the person who needs it the least. That's kind of my luxury. Yeah. It's like security.
Yeah.
Lydia, can you picture Kevin as a beefcake, like on a steroid, like muscled out?
You know what? Look, Bruce Lee, tiny, deadly. All right. You don't need to be a beefcake.
Well, we saw some time. Kevin and I in Mexico City, we went to go see the wrestling. And
that was incredible.
Hey, a lot of midgets.
Dwarf wrestling, female wrestling, all types of stuff.
I mean, you just have to be wily, quick, and fearless, and I think he's got that covered. So, a couple of lessons in my personal training ground, we're going to be good to go.
Yeah, just some choreography.
You can't even see how fast that is. Did you see how fast that was?
No. I didn't even see it.
Oh, yeah.
You can imagine if you didn't see it, how it feels. Like a fucking bolt of lightning.
Whoa!
Now, you two are both lightning speed in your own ways.
Kung Fu fighting.
Gosh. So, how often do you how many hours a day do you practice with if you're home alone and not touring or gigging?
Who, me?
Yeah,
me.
Well, not me. Yeah. I only practice slapping the wall.
No, I like to practice every day. I have kind of like a specific set
discipline.
Of
yes.
Yeah, just warm ups I do that will then lead to more kind of like looking at sheet music, and then playing off of that, playing around that. But it's always like I at least try to get this whole series of exercises that some I learned and some I just kind of developed on my own. Yeah, that I have to go through.
The rudimentary rudiments by what's his name? Tony Williams' teacher.
Dawson.
Alan Dawson.
Rudimental ritual.
Rudimental ritual. Yes. So yes.
Yeah, that kind of stuff. Yeah.
That's why he doesn't need to be a beefcake. He's already got the method down. The method of no method, Bruce Lee.
But some days, you just have to take care of tasks. Too many tasks pile up, and I can't even finish those before, I have to miss a day of practice. Yeah, it's just like, and on tour, sometimes it's so difficult to find time to practice.
To beat the pillows.
Yeah. You might be able to get in a half hour, and then it's like, time to go to sound check.
In more ways than one. And
hello.
Yeah.
Well, I'll just put it this way. When the show ends at 7 p.m. and it's 2 a.m. and we're still raging, there's not a lot of time left in the night.
Yeah, exactly. And then you got to get up in the morning. If you want to eat breakfast and get the digestive. Yeah.
So,
I mean,
Kevin,
there is, what?
Are you a bachelor, Kevin? Are you dating anyone right now?
A bachelor. I'm
Are you
single.
a bitchler? Oh,
You're single.
Dog show.
You're not seeing any Tinderellas or any of that shit.
I kind of like I'm not necessarily going the Morrissey route, but I'm kind of like
which is what?
Celibacy. Isn't he celibate?
No, let me put my 2 cents in. Maybe he's more like I am, a sexual elitist. Hey, Shea. All I'm saying.
Just
Kevin, you heard it here, folks, on the Lydia and Spin. Kevin Shea is a sexual elitist.
That doesn't mean he's not taking applications. Applications accepted.
Applications accepted.
Oh my God! I mean, you might have. Did you say everybody was kung fu fighting? Oh my God!
Everybody was kung fu fighting.
I think, Lydia, we should do a form of the dating game on this show.
I love it.
That would be
sure. I thought I was today.
Okay.
Whoa. Oh my God!
Frosty the Snowman.
Honey, you ain't gonna be too frosty next time you come over here. You're gonna be burning hot like I am every single day.
Hello.
Once I feed you some of that extra spicy.
Hello.
things I make over here. Delectables. You've tasted them. Don't be ridiculous. You can be as ridiculous as you want. You said I love you. That's all you need to say.
Oh, okay. Well, and your food.
Why, thank you very much. I love to watch you eat. After I put my fingers all over it, and I know that you're consuming little bits of my DNA. So at your next crime scene, well, they could never accuse me because I always have an ow.
God.
Hello.
Wait,
How you like me now?
We were eating crickets.
It was so delicious.
Oh. And then you had the duck green and black mole.
Oh yeah, and the wasp, the mezcal with the giant wasp.
Oh yeah, the mezcal with the wasp,
which became a destructive night.
Oh, I had a great night, and we everything was fun.
It was all fun.
I enjoyed all of that stuff. So no complaints when I'm hanging out with the two of you. It's always fun.
I love
obviously.
You guys.
Hey, chuckle fuckers avoiding the nugget chumpers. That's all I can say. Well, nobody knows what that means but you and me.
Do you have
chuckle lover? Nugget loving chuckle fucker. Nugget loving.
It's funny that this whole Christmas Carol thing came out because Kevin did make a Christmas album that I was on. Years ago.
Yeah.
Weirder than even the weirdest. Thank you. Tell me.
I was on synth actually. I wasn't even on bass. But Ron Stabinsky, Mappa, who else was on it?
Tom Blankart, Ron Stabinsky, you, and Sam Kulik.
Oh, it wasn't Mappa. It was Tom Blankart.
Yeah.
That's right.
Was Kevin singing or was it instrumental?
Well, he was kind of took an interesting approach. He was giving instructions on the microphone, and then I think we muted a lot of that in the mix, so it sounded like we were doing all this stuff telepathically, even though it was actually under like real order. He's making these commands, and then we just muted it out. It's like, how the hell did they do this? It was,
and then I had Mike Pride doing a commentary over the whole thing.
Oh, yeah, like a sports commentary.
Yeah, sports commentary.
Oh, I don't do that. Bizarre record.
Terrible approach to improv. Nice try.
Kevin, I think that you certainly should be more commanding, just all times to everyone in all aspects of your life. I think it suits you. Security. Learn from the expert. Thank you very much.
Holy night, the stars are
Is the Castrati back? Yeah. Oh no, it's the angel. That's the angel. What's going on?
So underrated, so insane. I think before I tie you both up, I think it's time to tie this up.
All right.
I think it's time to tie it up, Timmy. This has been the Lydian Spin, as always, with Lydia Lunchtime Dahl and Kevin Shea. Having a good time. Oh, yeah. Keep that mouth trumpet blowing, baby.
God.
Thank you very Thank you very much.
Thank you. That was so fun. Really.